Testing. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and watching the world. We have so much to talk about tonight. We have a show in store, as usual, on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. We'll be speaking with the criminal defense attorney, Calvin Johnson. I'm pretty sure you're looking forward to that. This week, if you have any questions that you would like to put forward, or if you would like to join the show, feel free to do so. We would like to have more people come on and participate. We love hearing from you. A lot of people are quite concerned because no doubt people did not receive their food stamps or what have you November the 1st. And a lot of people want to know what's going to happen. Today I heard that some of the payments might come forth, but they will be perhaps partial, and not really knowing when you would receive the remaining balance of what you would normally get at the beginning of the month. But let's look at a few news exhibits here to try to figure out what's happening to some of the headlines. We're just going to be brief because we're going to come right back at 8 p.m. to have our regular weekly review. So let's check out the first video for tonight. And I see we already have people here. Thank you guys for participating. JDP, nice to see you. Eric, it's always great. Gold Digger. So let's get started, guys. Let's check it out.
As always, Geraldo, and
hey,
the SNAP. It's interesting because, like I said, 42 million. When I first heard the number, when our coverage began of this, I said that is a lot. Even Shapiro was on saying 1 in 8 in Pennsylvania, it's 2 million there, received these benefits, the food stamps. Now it looks like maybe the president might have to find some money to keep paying them, and I've been wondering.
So it appears a judge has commissioned that the president, the government has to figure a way to pay it.
I think a lot of people have, if this is what kind of breaks things on the government shutdown. We'll see. What do you think?
You mean whether the courts can force a resolution?
Or whether even if they
don't,
the Congress says, all right, we got to figure something out here. If the courts make the president pay, maybe it's more likely it extends. I don't know.
This whole thing totally sucks. I have to say
Yes.
that. In no uncertain terms. This is horrible, and as you went through the numbers, not just the SNAP, but the kids, the Head Start. Imagine Head Start losing its funding. Kids, the whole family is planning on the child going to the school or to the daycare center during the day. What do they do?
Do you really think the higher ups or the power at be really care about these people that are hungry, right? What do you guys think? Who do you guys blame for the shutdown? Do you blame the Republicans with the MAGA crew, or do you think it's the Democrats? Tell us what you think. Gold Digger says, hey there, good evening. Good evening to you, Gold Digger. Pug Stories, welcome back. Good to see you. Jay says, the stupid Dems. Okay. All right. JDP says, welcome in and thank you for joining. Please be respectful to the host and everyone in the chat. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Okay, so Jay says it's definitely the Democrats. Let's check it out.
Now, you have, as you mentioned, there's 2 federal judges, Rhode Island and Massachusetts, who have ordered the federal government to use its emergency funding to keep these programs going. What is obvious, and as you have been reporting, Kamala, is that there's just not enough in the emergency basket to keep these these programs going for very, very much longer, but very deep into November, certainly. So it's worrisome. It's distasteful. You lose your faith.
The Department of USDA does have $6 billion in contingency funds, but that's still not enough to cover 1 month. And they're usually supposed to use these funds, but they have not so far. We have to wonder why.
Faith in government, it's just something that, and these are grown adults doing this. These are, not fly-by-night kids. These people know what they're doing. Thune and Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Johnson. These are veteran legislators. They know exactly what's going on, and they just pointing at the other guy. You do it first. You do it first. Don't me. No, you. And
this could go on forever the way these guys operate. Cog, welcome in. Thank you. And guys, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Cog says, Trump, smart people don't like me very much. Okay, thanks.
what is lost in the equation is the suffering of vulnerable population. It's just it's obscene. What's a kid who wants to think about running for president someday? He's watching these legislators, these names everybody knows, just playing a game. Playing a game, whose is bigger? Playing a game, and here's where we end up.
Which is always what we do. But think about where we are kind of in this country, big picture. If you just, whatever they do, they'll have to get something figured out hopefully soon. But we were just talking last hour. There's many people, and some, it's not just like the Elon Musks of the world. It's like you and I of the world that, if you're invested in the stock market over the years, you're doing great, okay, because it's at a record high. And now these numbers highlight how many people are not doing great. People working with jobs.
Okay, Knowles Bradford, thank you for your participation. Says nobody has explained exactly how the government shutdown stopped the EBT money from flowing. Exactly. Thomas says Trump is going to call the judge's bluff and tell him to freak off. Okay. Digby says Trump to blame over SNAP benefits. Okay. I wonder what the average American, although many, what does the 42 million people think? Who do they really blame for this debacle?
Working middle class, working middle poor, whatever label you want to put on it. And now we're having these conversations, and no wonder we are, by the way, in New York City about what we need to do about it. Affordability, everybody, maybe the Mamdani solutions are not what some people like, but the problem's been identified. So anyway, Mike Johnson was asked about and was speaking about Mamdani and whether there's a larger kind of movement growing.
In New York, Mamdani wants to put in government-run grocery stores. What do you guys think about that?
That is socialist in nature, maybe as a result of some of this. But anyway, here's what the speaker said.
SNAP and Medicaid and these other programs were intended to be a temporary safety net to help people to get back on their feet, but they have been abused. And there are some big government advocates like the Marxists, like the socialists, who want the government to take over everything and supply everything for everybody. But guess what? If the government can give you everything, it can take it away as well, and your freedom is sacrificed. Socialism, don't get me started, has been a great scourge on humanity.
Great scourge on humanity, the Marxists, and he says New York's just the tip of the iceberg in all of this. So again, this is the big picture.
Okay, a lot of people think that socialism is coming to New York with Mamdani. What do you guys think? Tell us all about it. Okay, we have a lot of Trump supporters here tonight. Barry says, love Trump. Okay, Barry says, MAGA country. This says, hate Trump. Okay, Barry says, Democrat violent losers. Thomas says, as long as the Democrats don't come to work, I'll say it's their fault. Okay. Digby says F MAGA. Okay, so we have people here from both sides, but let's try to get along, guys. Barry says Trump all day long. Okay, Barry says Democrats, no one cares what you think. Okay, he thinks that the Democrats are irrelevant. Lawrence says more than 60,000 layoffs were announced last week. Unemployment keeps rising. Nothing is cheaper. A third of the White House was demolished by a felon. Okay, bankrupt farmers. Every jobs report gets worse. Okay, the future looks pretty bleak, as Lauren has expressed. Barry says Republicans, presidents, House, and Senate. Yeah, they have it all. Digby says, as long as the repumps keep it closed, I blame them. Okay, guys, thank you so much for all of your participation. Bordeaux is in the building. Nice to have you here, Bordeaux. Let's finish this out.
The arguments about what we should do. What do you say?
Well, I'm glad that he had his chance to vent. I just wish that he would be more effective in terms of getting government back on its feet. It's easy to moan and groan, when you're putting the blame on the other side and ignoring your own role being played in this impasse. Well, I got news for the speaker. Yes, 22% of Democrats, according to Pew, are using the SNAP benefits. It's so what's that? One in five, more or less. But 10% of Republicans are also using SNAP. A lot of those big red states, the rural states where families have a very tough time making ends meet. And the fact that the government is kind to a sense. I mean, you need checks and balances. I applauded Elon Musk in that whole Doge effort. It was heavy-handed and seemed ill-timed and, without lacking experience. But I like the ethos of it. I like the fact that they were conscious of the fact that government is wasting money and spending too much money and maybe hiring too many people to do a particular task that's unnecessary. I'm all for making the buck go as far as I can, but also there's people in this country, and you've been reporting it, I think, very eloquently, Connell, that people who aren't high rollers, who don't have hybrid Bentleys, who.
Hey, listen, we're already in a tough market, so to cut back on the food stamps, there's a lot of people that are definitely adversely affected. Noel says, you think Antifa is making a ruckus in Oregon? Wait till Americans who need to go and survive stand up. You ain't seen nothing yet. Okay, thank you for that expression. Donna is also making a point here, says, I'm over here in Newfoundland, Canada, and I effing love Trump. Most of us over here in Canada love Trump. Trump started off with the battle with Canada, so it's interesting that you make that comment. That helps me understand a little bit. Ahmed says, diversity, what makes America great? Okay, Ryan says, most people on SNAP are white. Okay, I think it's about 36%, and maybe 27% are Black. Okay. Bordeaux is saying hello to everyone. Cox says liberty and freedom. Okay. Gold Digger, thank you so much. Mitchell says hi to everyone. Daniel says the left is ignorant. The Dems voted 13 times against Republicans trying to get the government, I guess you meant open. The left is insistent on giving benefits to illegal immigrants. Okay, that's a big problem. In fact, I went over last week how with Section 8, they have a new application series going through to make sure that individuals who are on Section 8, that they don't have illegal immigrants living in the house. They want it eradicated. Okay. Mitchell says, hope y'all are doing great. I think everybody's doing quite well. Hopefully we don't have people that are too hungry because they're not receiving their benefits. Digby says, Trump is going to take your guns away, and that's what fascists do. Okay. Thomas says, usually the Republicans are pro-gun, so we'll have to see what happens. Thomas says, new subscriber, I like your style. Thank you so much. I like your style too. I appreciate having you here. Thanks for the like and thanks for the subscription. Digby says, there are more welfare recipients in red welfare states. I think his numbers were wrong. He made it seem the opposite with what he just said, but I think he's wrong about that, right? What do you guys think? All right, Two Stroke says, great live, brother. Okay, thank you very much. Nice to have you here. Stick around. Come back at 8 p.m. We're going to have a criminal defense attorney on, Calvin Johnson. Blackground TV. I have not received your email, so let's get this clear right now. Could one of the moderators put in the correct email address for Blackground TV? I've been trying to send you a Cash App, so I really need you to pay attention for this. Maybe I gave you the email wrong or what have you, but someone's going to put the right email in the chat for you now. Let's move on to the next subject at hand. We know that this gentleman here, Fetterman, is taking on a lot of steam here. He switched up. Let's see if he has something great to say that we can glean from. Let's check him out.
Now is Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. He's one of 3 Senate Democrats who has been voting with Republicans to continue to fund the government. Senator, thanks for joining us. So, as you know, 42 million Americans, including 2 million Pennsylvanians, will not receive food stamp or SNAP benefits this month because funding officially lapsed yesterday. The White House says this is the fault of Democrats for shutting down the government. Democrats note that the Trump administration is not dipping into the contingency funds for SNAP.
Guys, Fetterman had a major stroke, and just to see him bounce back the way he did, I think is quite amazing.
And they think that Trump is doing that to pressure Democrats. How do you see it? Who do you blame for this?
Well, I mean, for me, fundamentally, I'm deeply distressing to know that 42 million Americans are going to lose their SNAP benefits. And now that's one of the big reasons why I refuse to shutting our government down. And again, I feel like the Democrats really need to own the shutdown. I mean, we're shutting it down. I know why they claim, because they want to address the tax credits. And
you see here, the guys that have all the power, they do the pointing game, but they still get paid, right? It's the poor people or the people with little means that suffer the most, right? What a shame.
I fully support that. I voted for all of their CRs, RCRs, every single time. And I refuse to put 42 million Americans in the kinds of food insecurity. Now, this is all is solved by just reopen our government, and the people are now paid. Now, if we are the party that are fighting for working people. Now, as far as I'm aware, every single union that's involved in this is now demanding to us to reopen that. That's the side that I'm in through this. And now the 4 airlines are now saying we really have to stop this right now. And why do we really want to make flying less safe by forcing this times of situation and making things that much stressed? So it's not something I support of, and I don't want to be involved. And now we can find a way forward. We need to find a way forward. And I do believe we can achieve these kinds of tax credits.
I think a lot of people are focused on the fact that individuals are not receiving their food stamps, the WIC, and they may not keep in mind that a lot of people that work at the airports are not getting paid. A lot of federal workers haven't been paid in quite some time, people that serve our country, right?
And this is something I support, but it's the wrong tactic. It was wrong when the Republicans did it. It's wrong now that we seem to be driving it.
Senators say that bipartisan talks to end this logjam seem to be gaining steam, though an actual agreement is out of reach as of now. Do you know where these bipartisan talks to end the shutdown?
I think these guys are looking for a bloodbath. They're not looking to work together. So, okay, Gold Digger says, hey there. Okay, great. Mitchell says, yes, I'm doing great as well. Peace and love. What a good spirit. Thank you so much. Leslie says, we love President Trump in the UK and so wish he had him over here. Okay, wish you had him over there. Great. VO79 says, it's a lie, so not really a problem. Okay. Energy management, welcome back. It's always great to have you. I've seen you here quite a bit now. That's awesome. Trump is a criminal and a traitor, and MAGAs are a fool. Okay, not too happy with the red today. Sony says, well, I get food stamps and I get a disability check, and I don't know how to stretch everything because I don't have savings. I don't have money in the bank, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Thank you for sharing your personal experience. We see that people are really being affected. Nice to have you around. Okay, and we hope that your situation gets much better. GWW says, scapegoating immigrants for the problems created, okay, by the owning elites. Okay. All right. Fufu, welcome. Nice to have you here. So let me understand this. You're talking about illegal immigrants when there are elderly, disabled, and children who needs the benefits and are U.S. citizens. Okay. Thank you for your comment and your participation as well. Thank you. Thank you. We have so many new people here tonight. I'd like to ask for you guys to hit the like button. Also, come make sure you're here at 8 o'clock. We're going to have a great legal show tonight. So tune in for that as well. Man, there's so many comments. I don't want to miss anybody here. Let's see. Thank you. JDP put in the Blackground TV. JDP put in the correct email. I'm going to put it up. Send me your information, I'll take care of you right away. Not sure what's going on. Sony says Mexicans over here are getting food stamps, and I'm white, but everybody I'll talk to and everything are black, and they all get food stamps. And that's got 8 children, and her husband work, I guess is what you're saying. Okay. Mitchell says, you're doing a great job. Thank you, Mitchell. Nice to have you here. Thanks for the support. Walter says, as an independent, both sides of the aisle, there's a dumpster fire right now and has been for a while. Pretty embarrassing. Yes, indeed. So embarrassing that we're going through this. Edward, nice to have you here. It's the Schumer shutdown. I believe so. I believe there's some truth to that in my research. Knowles says, I worked my whole life paying taxes. Now I'm 55, can barely walk and need the help and ain't gonna get it. Makes you lose faith in the whole system, not just one party. The whole system is rigged, right, folks? We need better. Thank you for that breakdown. Give heartfelt situation. Digby says 95% of Canadians hate Trump. That's why tourism is way down in Florida. Okay, thanks for that insight. Two Stroke says the guy on the hoodie, LOL. Blackground TV says he's not to be trusted. Okay, Donald says bravo. John Fetterman, you are a pleasant surprise. Much respected, brother. Okay, Call says Republicans suck. Okay, Blackground TV says Fetterman, us going to pull a Joe Manchin. Okay. Digby says Fetterman is a Republican. Okay, he switched aisles. That's so true. And MTG, welcome back, says, yeah, didn't think so. Okay, let's get back to the video, guys.
We're on day 33 of the shutdown, obviously.
I sure hope so. I mean, this is an absolute fail. It's embarrassing, honestly. If we can't even kind of, keep the lights on like this, and now reminding everybody, federal workers have had to borrow more than $1/3 billion just to pay their own bills. I mean, those are the kinds of workers that make this, and they're really suffering now too. And now people can't count on their SNAP benefits, and also WIC and Head Start. These are the kinds of people, why I'm a Democrat, fighting for people that just like that. Now, I'm not, seems like we're moving against our core values to keep our government shut down at this point.
I think you just said that's why he's a Democrat. Wow. Thought he switched over.
Now we're approaching 33 days now.
Yeah. So let's talk about the issue that Democrats say they're fighting for in the shutdown. Pennsylvania's Obamacare marketplace says that more than 150,000 Pennsylvanians are going to lose their coverage if these enhanced premiums expire at the end of the year. In Allegheny County, where you live, average monthly health care costs are projected to rise 75%. In rural Juniata County,
in Maryland,
prices are going to jump a stack.
In Maryland, 3-family home, some people are going to be paying, if they make, I believe, over $60,000 a year, they're going to be paying $1,700 a year. That is insane, folks. What is going on,
435%. Have any Republicans offered you any assurances that they will work with Democrats to actually do something to prevent this from happening if Democrats reopen the government?
Yeah, well, I absolutely do believe, because a lot of those counties that you just referenced now, they're all very, very red. And then I do believe many Democrats now realize, and now Republicans realize, that we have to address this and extend these tax credits. And I absolutely hope that we do. This is what I'm saying. Like, I fully support these.
Now, I want you guys to keep in mind the reason why Elon Musk had a falling out with Trump was because of this big, beautiful bill, the same bill that Democrats are having a problem with. Let's not forget that. So keep that in mind. There's something here, right?
These things, but this is the wrong tactic. And right now, by doing this, our government shut down, we're getting neither of those things. And they guarantee neither you're going to get your SNAP benefits, and you're not going to get this kind of tax credits that we all need. Reopen this thing, and we can find a way forward. That's the way democracy operates for right now.
There are big elections on Tuesday, obviously coast to coast in New Jersey and Virginia.
And it's amazing. We have the National Guard out in the streets. So if people were so frustrated about what's happening and they decided to take to the streets and fight back or protest, it's ironic that they'll be facing, right, the National Guard. It's we can't say it's by design, but it does have a little hair on it, if you ask me, right? All right, let's get to a few of the comments and before we get rolling here. Digby says Fetterman is a fake Democrat. Yeah, he just said he was a Democrat. That's weird. MTG says, yeah, didn't think so. Okay. All right. Smack the Donkey says John Fetterman is the only Democrat that has any integrity. I've heard that a lot today. Digby says MGT does not agree with phony Democrat Fetterman. Okay. Lauren is back at us with a purple heart, says it's hard for me to trust anyone that didn't support the same presidential candidate as the January 6th rioters. How can I find common ground with people who never voted for a felon? Okay, I do see some headlines where the Supreme Court is turning around Donald Trump's conviction. I have to research it to see if that's solid, but there may be some things happening even with the Supreme Court. Donald Trump may have a big win. GWW says America wasted all its prosperity on war. China is investing in trade routes, education, and growing their middle class. We sold out 2 generations, outsourced all the industry, bailed out the banks. Oh, yeah, we definitely bailed out the banks during the time of Barack Obama. Smack the Donkey says he is the Democrat front runner. They are too smooth brain to see it. Okay, thank you for that. D. John says, what about losing medical coverage? Yeah, it's a nightmare. So you're losing food. Now, everybody thinks that this food activity with the food stamps and WIC is all associated with the shutdown. But really, if you look at Project 2025, all of these cuts are coming down the pipeline, those that haven't happened already, right? MTG says, step your game up. Okay. Greg says he is making it better. Okay. All right. So I guess, what do you guys tell me what you think about Fetterman here? We just wanted to give him a little run, see if he seemed like a pretty sharp guy. I want to see what you guys have to say. Now, when Donald Trump took office, he said he would be the person that create all the peace, right? He made the deal between Israel, right? Pakistan. Well, we see what's happening there. Israel is still dropping bombs. But at any rate, now Donald Trump has turned his attention to Africa. It seems to be in the air. Let's check it out.
An urgent message from President Trump demanding Nigeria stop the brutal murders of thousands of Christians in the country or face possible action from the Pentagon. He posted in part, quote, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. Paul Adamu is a Nigerian Christian who was kidnapped by Boko Haram 2 years ago.
Wow. So Donald Trump is backing the Christians so much so that he might send the troops in. Something to think about.
He joins us now. It's so wonderful to have you on the show. Please tell us what happened to you.
It was such a disheartening situation. 2 years ago, I was kidnapped by the dreaded Boko Haram along my way to the airport while I was traveling to Cameroon to meet some of my colleagues, and then I got kidnapped along the line, along the route.
And you were held for how long?
12 days.
Okay. And there are many people, especially young girls, who have been kidnapped by Boko Haram, put into forced marriages, forced conversions. They're still in captivity. The situation there is quite dire. You heard what President Trump has said. Here's what Nigeria's president has said in response. He said that the characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant does not reflect our national reality, nor does it take into consideration the consistent and sincere efforts of the government to safeguard freedom of religion and beliefs for all Nigerians. What's your message? What's it like to be a Christian in Nigeria?
First, I want to thank and applaud the United States of America President Donald Trump for designating Nigeria as a CPC, because this is one of the things that we have always wanted. for the message of the Nigerian president, that I think at this point, I will say that there is a time when propaganda has no appeal, where propaganda has lost an appeal. And this is actually.
Now, you guys shocked that Donald Trump is taking this posture when it comes to Nigeria, especially in trying to back the Christians. Tell us what you think in the comments.
Actually, the time, because whatever is happening in Nigeria at this moment, I would say that Nigeria is the worst place to be as a Christian, like the worst place in the whole of the world to be as a Christian, because you wake up every day with news of killings. Every day with news of massacring of Christians. Is totally a genocide that is happening here in Nigeria. There is nothing anybody will tell me, because I have been in here for as long as I know. I've been in these places where these attacks have taken place. I've seen women who are crying for the loss of their husbands. I've seen children who are crying for the loss of their parents. I've seen parents who are crying for the loss of their children. I've been to churches that have been burnt down. These are not things that I've heard from the news or someone telling me. This is something that I witnessed somewhere. I've been myself. I've witnessed where terrorism is at the highest.
So it's quite possible we might have troops on the ground in Venezuela and Nigeria, or this could be just talk to try to get them to get in line and do the right thing, I guess.
This point where people are killed and slaughtered like chickens every day.
Paul, I don't have a lot of time left, but I just want to ask you one last question. How have you and other Christians kept the faith during this persecution?
We are grateful for the organization I work with, Irish Global, who have taken it upon themselves to care for these persecuted Christians.
Okay, all right, very good. So I'm kind of shocked. I do know that even J.D. Vance has been talking a lot about Christianity. Now we see Donald Trump taking a stand for the Christians. But the United States is predominantly a Christian nation, right? When you go to court, you swear on your Bible. We could go on and on about that. So I find it quite intriguing. Let's move on. We have a lot to cover here. Jasmine Crockett. We know we have a lot of Jasmine Crockett fans in the building. Let's see what's going on with her. She dropped a bomb on Trump. So let's see what that bomb is all about.
So the latest news that we have.
Actually, before we do that, let's breeze through a few of the comments. Thomas, nice to have you here. Thomas says, last time I checked, Democrats tried to bankrupt Donald Trump more than 90 times, and in the court of law, he became victorious in each and every one of those cases. Guys, I actually went to Donald Trump's court case here in New York City. I covered that as well. Actually, Donald Trump would walk past me in court. I also covered Sean Diddy Combs' case, so I definitely bring you guys the inside of the federal court information so you can get a good, a lot of people are turning away from a legacy media because they all speak the same language and tell you the same bull. So independent news sometimes, if it's honest, can be quite advantageous and beneficial. Greg says there's a reason they're called illegals. I agree with that. 1 minute to midnight says the only people losing health care are the illegals. Why can't you people understand that? Okay, is it true? I think earlier people are also saying that the prices are going up and that's why it's hard to maintain. Digby says most people in the UK, France, and Europe hate Trump for supporting Russia. Okay. Gold Digger says great way to support the channel. Double tap on the screen and like, share, and subscribe. Thanks. You guys are appreciated. I love Jesus is in the building, says because those Democrats are liars, cheats, and hate any good for the country. All is only the Democrats' fault. Greg, welcome in. Greg says Trump is great. Marky Mark, welcome back. Shout out to you, Marky Mark. Thanks for your continued support. MTG says MAGA all day. Marky Mark says thanks for the common sense mail. Yes, indeed. And we don't always agree, Marky Mark. But I love the debate. That's how we win. We don't win with bullets. We win with words and using our intelligence, right? Walter says, I like your stream, brother. Gotta go, but I sub. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you. I do appreciate it quite kindly there. Maria says, Fetterman has lost his mind. He's out of his mind, folks. Marky Mark says, I hope you keep it closed the rest of Trump's presidency. Okay, meaning keeping the government shut down. You want to shut down that long? That is quite a thought. Calvin says, sounds like he switched. Sounds like he switched to me, but in this video, which was today, he says he's a Democrat, but in the media, they says that Fetterman is a Republican. So I don't even know what's going on here. MTG says we do need to anyways. Okay. Daniel says time to change parties. Okay, let's go on with Jasmine Crockett.
Have right now is that Donald Trump spent his Halloween hosting a Gatsby party, as if the imagery wasn't already strong enough, with him recreating his bathroom in marble and building a $350 million ballroom, adorning his Oval Office in gold. And so what do you make of the fact that this is how he decided to spend his time? These are the optics he was trying to put forward at the same time that we have millions upon millions upon millions of Americans wondering how they're going to eat and afford health care.
Yeah, I mean, he's made it very clear that he just doesn't care. The question is, will people be wise enough to see that it's not just Donald Trump? Donald Trump doesn't care, but he is afforded an opportunity not to care because of the people that he surrounds himself with, including House Republicans and Senate Republicans. The reason that people may not eat is because there's no pushback, even within his own party, to say, no, Mr. President, there are emergency funds and you need to make sure that you tap into those emergency funds. Or, Mr. President, instead of having a party, maybe we sit down in the Oval Office and maybe we negotiate an end to this stalemate. But no one around him is saying prioritize the very people that made it possible for you to sit on high, and obviously you are looking low.
And nothing kind of exemplifies that better than the fact that all this time we had Trump and Mike Johnson.
Oh, she's preaching. You hear her preaching. What do you guys think? You agree with her?
Saying, oh, we can't possibly tap into this contingency fund because it's not used in this kind of an emergency. We need to keep it for some other emergency that may happen at some arbitrary date in the future. But then we have two judges come forward and say that you have to use these contingency funds, undermining Mike Johnson's argument, which would be bad enough unto itself because it puts on full display the extent to which Mike Johnson lied. But the response from this administration.
Everybody keeps calling Mike Johnson a liar. Do you guys think he's a liar? And why do they keep calling him Grinder Mike? I don't understand that.
Was we are going to appeal. So they were given the out and they were told, no, it's okay, you can use these funds. And so you can feed these people who need food. And the administration's response to this was, we're going to appeal this decision because we don't want to be forced to be able to feed people who need these SNAP benefits. And so what's your response to that?
You know, people complain about Democratic messaging. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. The clearest message is actually coming from the president and this administration themselves. There's really not much for us to say. It is clear that they are not prioritizing the least, sufficient people, the people that are really struggling the most, the people that are trying their best. And I don't understand how it is that you can be a president of the United States and leave anybody out of that equation. But it has become very clear that if you are not rich, if you are not male, straight, and white, then most likely you won't be a priority. But this is so, to come from being elected by people that said that they were about Christian values. So that's why I use that language, the least of these, because that is biblical language, right? What you do for the least of these, you do unto me. That is talking about Jesus Christ himself. And so, as he has said, he doesn't believe that he's going to heaven. And I honestly could not. So
it's quite clear that both sides are also using the Bible to make their points, because everybody's jumping on the Christian bandwagon to make their points, right? So we'll have to see how this materializes. We're going to cover a little bit more of this and move on.
Agree more. He's probably not going to be on that list.
A rare point of agreement between you two.
Yeah. He's probably not going to be on the list of the pearly gates, because if you understand anything in his word, nothing about anything that he is doing, loving thy neighbor, this is not what loving thy neighbor looks like. And so I just want people to wake up, whether you're somebody that decided you were going to vote for him because you felt like it was the Christian thing to do, or whether you're somebody who voted for him because you felt like he was going to bring down the cost of food, the cost of housing, or whatever. It is time to wake up and recognize that he doesn't even care about you having the basics, from food to healthcare to shelter to a job. We know right now we've hit a record 1 million people that have lost jobs, and it's not even been a year since he's been in. He is killing our economy, and the only people that are getting richer are him and his family members.
Now, I have to say, guys, all of the individuals jumping on the Christian bandwagon is kind of odd to me, because in the Gospels, for those that actually read the Bible, it does say if your neighbor came to you needing food, would you just give them a stone or what have you? Or it says love your neighbor as yourself. So in this country, everybody's so up in arms, they want to get rid of the neighbor, right? Or check his paperwork. So there's a different spirit than what you would actually find in the Bible, but people are really pushing the narrative. So it's going to be quite intriguing to see how this all plays out. Let's get to a few of the comments before we move on. We have so many comments. Okay, let's see. Daniel says, time to change parties, Fetterman. Okay. All right, let's see. Blackground TV says, no, he's still a Democrat. That's why I said he's going to do what Joe Mancini did and switch parties to placate MAGA. Okay, Two Stroke says $1,700 a year is dirt cheap. Okay. All right. Eric says, hello. Okay. Shout out to you. All right. Okay, great. You sent the email. I'll respond to it right away when in between my shows here. Marky Mark says, I think he meant a month, $1,700 a month. Yes, $1,700 a month. Thank you, Marky Mark, for catching that. Two Stroke says, my roommate pays $250 a week. Okay. Tony Toe says, Elon is a traitor. Elon has all the money. I think he just hit 400 billion. He's one of the richest guys in the world, if not the leading guy. Marky Mark says, we're going to win these elections on Tuesday. Everyone go vote. Okay, Tuesday is a big day. They say in New York, Mamdani is going to win, and New York will be a state of socialists. Let's see what it's all about. Okay, there's some sort of attack that happened at the university, so let's check it out, folks. We'll get to it before we end here. Let's see what's happening.
Right now, the FBI is joining the manhunt for two suspects caught on camera fleeing a Harvard Medical School building after an explosion yesterday morning, which officials believe was intentionally set. Our next guest, who worked on the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, says despite evidence destroyed in the blast, there's still enough to catch them. Retired FBI supervisory agent James Gagliano joins us now. So great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us. So what do we know at this point about this explosion?
Boy, Charlie, it's really, really limited. I mean, the officials are basically saying it was a device and it was intentional, but they stopped short of describing it as a bomb or an improvised explosive device. Now, look, one of the most difficult things in these type of investigations is when you have an explosion that goes off, the evidence gets destroyed. Now, that didn't stop us from solving the USS Cole bombing, didn't stop us from solving the first World Trade Center bombing or others. But in this instance, crowdsourcing, what we're doing right here, right now, showing pictures of the two suspects, and that's what authorities are calling them, is going to help close this out. It's been 28 hours, but they're going to catch these two.
And the fact that they are right there on the screen, they're masked and fleeing sort of suggests that this was not some sort of accidental thing that happened.
Right. And authorities didn't refer to them as persons of interest. A person of interest could just be considered a witness. They defined them as suspects. That tells you a lot. FBI has the lead on this. They always do since 1998 when PDD 62 came out, and they will catch these guys.
And authorities said that there were no injuries, but they don't explain much about what damage was done. Do we know what kind of damage was done?
What happens in an explosion? Three things are the killers, right? The first is overpressure from the device or the bomb or the explosion. The second is fragmentation, scattering whatever else is around it inside the blast radius. And last, and equally nefarious, is the thermal effect, what's caused by the fire. What was the motive behind this? Officials aren't saying. I'm hoping there'll be a press conference today and lay this out.
Do we think there is any lasting damage to the building or the surroundings?
They aren't suggesting that. And a lot of times you can tell more from what the police aren't saying early on than what they are releasing. So we have not heard exactly what the damage was, how extensive, and if anything in specific was targeted.
Yeah, they'll have these guys in a flash. I guarantee you that. If it's Harvard, they're going to find those guys. They're good as caught. Okay, JDP says, like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified for upcoming shows. Okay, thank you very much. Michael says, in Canada, we pay $100 for a carton of cigarettes. Jeez. And $70 for a case of beer. So I can walk in the hospital and get a quadruple Bypass did not pay one time. Okay, that's an advantage that you find in Canada, definitely with healthcare. Tumbleweed says 1989, I was in a situation where I needed help. I was only able to be on welfare for 90 days, so I better get a job, and I did. How are these people on welfare for life? Being lazy isn't disability. Okay, great expression. You make a great point. Thank you. Jason, now some would argue that, but that's a good point you make here. Jason says, this is a good example of why you never want to depend on the government. I say amen to that. All right, Marky Mark says 500 watching. Let's get those likes up. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed. Thanks for helping the channel. Tony Toe says Bush began the bank bailouts. Okay. Okay. Blackground TV says they can't overtake convictions. Okay. Good point. That's right. Good point. So I'm not sure what it's about exactly, but it's in the headlines. It might just be cap. Who knows? But we're going to find out. We're going to investigate. Jeanette says, this has all been prophesied. Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump needs to do right now. When Donald Trump's time comes, not to be doing what he needs to be doing, he will fall. Okay. All right. All right. And Marky Mark says, here's some pills for the TDS here. Okay. And let's see. We have so many comments here. Let's see. Melissa says, finally, Nigerians were pleading help in these Christians' genocide. Okay. A lot of things happening in this world that are terrible. Marky Mark says, international truth. Okay. All right. Johnny Owen, thank you for your support of the channel, your likes and shares, and thanks for subscribing. Says only uninformed Democrats believe the January the 6th story. Ask the decrepit Nancy Pelosi, the inside trading hag. Okay. All right. Thank you. MTG 619 says, sorry, had to correct you. That is no problem. It's actually 17,000 a year, I believe. Mux Capital says, actually, I have a video coming out that's going to break it down, has the accurate numbers. Mux Capital says, ending the free money, and always do that, no problem. Mux says, ending the free money will drive the illegals out of the country. Excellent move by Trump. Okay. All right. So we're down to the last 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do, California sued the government. I want to go over a little bit of this, because it actually explains the breakdown of how this all works for those who may not fully understand. So we're going to breeze through maybe 10, 15 minutes of this, and then we'll get ready for the next show.
Here today to announce California's latest lawsuit against the federal government, and specifically the U.S. Department of Agriculture, also known as USDA, and Secretary Brooke Rollins. Using the current federal shutdown, scapegoat USDA has unlawfully suspended funds for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, for the first time in the program's history, informing state agencies that the federal government will withhold all November benefit payments. Trump and Rollins are cutting off benefits for more than 41 million Americans, 41 million Americans, red states and blue states, folks who rely on SNAP to put food on the table, even though there are billions of dollars in contingency funds and other funds that could be used to provide SNAP benefits during the shutdown. They are doing this on purpose. It is deliberate. It is intentional. They have the funds. They're just not using them. The vast majority of SNAP recipients are families with kids, elderly individuals, and people with disabilities. These are our most vulnerable. Society should be judged on how we treat the most vulnerable. Trump gets an F for what he is doing here to our kids and to our most vulnerable Americans. Here in California, our SNAP program, CalFresh, supports 5.5 million Californians every month, including 1.9 million children.
5 million people in California get SNAP benefits, food stamps. Wow.
All of them are counting on this program. They're counting on their government to follow through on its promise and to provide the support that they need. In abruptly suspending SNAP, Trump and Rollins have broken the law. They have forced states to scramble to try and clean up the federal government's mess. And worst of all, they've left 41 million Americans unsure of where their next meal will.
Okay, so they say it's Donald Trump's fault. that the government is shut down, him and Rollins.
Come from. With today's lawsuit, our coalition of 23 attorneys general and 3 governors who are standing up for the people in their state have made it clear that we refuse to stand by and allow the Trump administration to arbitrarily and unlawfully do away with a decades-old safety net program, the country's most important tool for fighting against hunger. Before I talk further about this case, I want to acknowledge the incredible teams in all of our offices who worked diligently to put this lawsuit together, including working through the weekend. It has been common that working through the weekend and late nights, sometimes all-nighters, is something that our team is no stranger to. I'm grateful for them. I'm proud of them. They don't do it for the recognition. They do it for the mission. And at California DOJ, folks who are pursuing that mission includes our government law section, our special litigation teams. We wouldn't be able to serve our respective states without these incredible public servants. I'm grateful to be one of their colleagues and to lead our department. Which brings me back to this lawsuit and the unlawful suspension of SNAP benefits. I want to first back up a bit to explain the timeline here. On September 30th, ahead of the imminent shutdown, USDA issued a, quote, lapse of funding plan that stated that Congress's clear intent is that SNAP should continue, even if there is a lapse in federal funding. They said that on September 30th. The plan also stated that Congress, which created and funds SNAP, has provided multi-year contingency funds to provide for the in situations just like this. This is what the contingency funds are for, to be spent in times like this. Based on 2 congressional appropriations, we believe that USDA has up to $6 billion in contingency funds and possibly more to fund SNAP. All they have to do.
So they do have the money.
Is spend that money that is there for this purpose, but they're not. That's enough money to cover November's benefits. And there are other pots of money that USDA can access that could fund the rest of November's benefits. On October 1st, once the shutdown had begun, USDA sent state agencies a letter directing them to continue administering SNAP, including processing new applications and preparing November's benefits. 9 days later, in direct contradiction of those 2 earlier communications, USDA sent a new letter stating that if the shutdown continues, there wouldn't be enough funds for November benefits. Complete 180. The letter claimed that USDA had only just begun the process of fact-finding and information gathering to address the impact of the shutdown. It stated it needed maximum flexibility, was their term.
Well, something seemed a little shady there, wouldn't you say? Let's see what some of you guys are saying here. Okay, let them eat cake while I build my ballroom and go. Okay, it says, JoJo said, and that was by My Inspirations. Jeffrey says, Democrat extortion. Okay.
The shutdown and directed us to withhold November benefit issuance files until further notice. Nothing was said about the contingency funds reserved for a situation just like this one. That seemed to be an inconvenient fact that they didn't want to talk about. Nothing was said about USDA's prior communication that said the opposite. They ignored their communications from just days earlier. Nothing was said about the families that would be left high and left dry come November. On October 24th, USDA sent another letter confirming that it was suspending November SNAP benefits. That same day, USDA issued a memo claiming that it had no legal authority to use contingency funds and that tapping into the available funds would jeopardize other federal programs that need to be funded. But USDA provided zero basis of any kind, zero authority to support that claim. The next day, the SNAP website blamed Senate Democrats for the SNAP suspension and claimed, quote, the well has run dry, end quote. Mind you, there is a contingency fund with billions of dollars. That's the well that is supposedly dry. We know that's absolutely false, that the well has run dry. That claim is wrong. It's a lie. The well has up to $6 billion ready to be tapped into. Trump and his administration are willing to put more than 41 million Americans at risk of hunger, at risk of food insecurity, at risk of malnutrition, if it gives them a...
Okay, JoJo makes a point, says Argentina got billions, us Americans got nothing. Okay, John Stevenson says nobody should be getting $4,000 a month in food stamps. Okay. Melissa says both sides are using leverage. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you guys for participating. I appreciate each and every one of you.
A new play in their twisted political game. They are playing politics while Americans go hungry. It is avoidable. They have chosen this path. The reality is that what the Trump administration is doing is illegal. The federal government has a legal obligation to provide payments to those who meet program eligibility requirements. The law is clear that USDA can't suspend SNAP benefits without first spending the money it has available, which it has not done. Instead of providing the benefits it can, doing the most good it can,
Boofire says no one is getting $4,000 a month in food stamps. Okay, 480. Thank you. Says when it costs $9 billion, who's getting pulled from the $6 billion? Okay, Fancy Bro says Trump is a maniac. Jojo says food stamp is less than $200 per month. Hardly 4,000. Okay, Gold Digger says welcome in. First things first, double tap the screen, like, subscribe, become a part of the Watching the World family, where truth meets justice. Boofire, thank you, Gold Digger. Boofire says there are contingency funds specifically earmarked for SNAP, but they said the well ran dry, so it can't be true, right?
USDA has unnecessarily and unlawfully suspended the program altogether without an adequate explanation or a plan. By failing to follow the law and fulfill its obligations, by flouting process and protocol required when dealing with federal programs and federal funding appropriated by the co-equal branch of Congress, by ignoring Congress's intent, by providing no clarity or further information to the states.
Okay, LJ from Brooknon says New York City is $292 a month for single males. Thank you for that insight. That's awesome. Boots on the ground. I love it. Tracy Spence says Argentina was an investment. It was done before the government closed down. The taxpayers are not paying for the ballroom. Okay. Bluefire says, sure. Wink, wink. Okay. LJ from Brooklyn says $90 cash assistance every 2 weeks. And David says brokies. Okay. Kathleen says, I'm a senior disabled, get $23 a month. Oh my goodness. What? I'll be doggone. David says Democrats' fault. Yes, indeed. Blame the Democrats. 480 says, why didn't he mention Hawley's SNAP funding bill on the 21st?
That actually have to run the program, despite our requests for more information, by failing to engage in any reasoned decision-making and failing to consider the impact their actions will have on our states or the health and well-being of millions of Americans. The Trump administration has broken the law again, which is why we're asking the court to make clear that this SNAP suspension is unlawful, to require USDA to use the funds available to provide as many benefits as possible and to prevent USDA from withholding benefits in November. Every American, regardless of political affiliation, should be outraged by the Trump administration's willingness to let more than 41 million Americans go hungry. Completely avoidable, not necessary, a chosen path. Cutting SNAP will leave families hungry, leading to malnutrition and dire health outcomes. When children go hungry, they struggle in school. They experience fatigue, depression, exhibit behavioral problems. Food insecurity results in higher healthcare use and costs, including more emergency room visits and hospitalizations, which will put undue strain on our healthcare systems and programs like Medicaid. In fact, lower income adults participating in SNAP have been shown to incur about $1,400 less in medical care costs in a year than those who don't participate in the program. The country's need for SNAP does not disappear just because USDA has abandoned its responsibility to fund it. Instead, families will be forced to turn to state and local governments, community organizations for the food assistance they need, none of which are equipped or ready to fill the massive hole the SNAP suspension creates. In California, food banks already help support 4.6 million Californians facing food insecurity, and they're already struggling to fulfill those needs in the face of other federal cutbacks, including $500 million cut in food deliveries earlier this year. Since the suspension was announced, our state agencies have been left to hold the bag. State agencies are required to continue operating our SNAP programs even when the federal government has suspended benefits. That means with little notice, our states have to continue processing applications, knowing the applicants won't receive the benefits they're applying for. We've had to spend our limited resources on creating urgent new messaging campaigns and delivering the terrible news to families that they won't get the help they need to buy groceries come November. We've been saddled with new administrative costs, and through it all, we don't even have a plan or clear direction from USDA. Meanwhile, our economy is about to feel the hit of SNAP's disappearance. Stores and farmers will lose out on the business they expect from SNAP recipients.
Okay, so let's see here. We have quite a few. Nikki, welcome. Thanks for your participation. So, well, liberal Democrats opened up the government, you idiots. Okay, Tracy says, all call Schumer's office. He's stopping the spending bill. Quit blaming Trump. You say you don't want a king, but you're asking Trump to be a king for the sake of SNAP. Okay, thank you.
In California, we're talking about 26,600 grocers, farmers markets, and other businesses that accept SNAP payments. USDA itself has estimated that every $1 in SNAP benefits generates more than $1.50 in economic activity, a 150% return for our economy now gone. The irreparable harm to families and individuals who count on SNAP, the harm to our states and state agencies, and the harm to our economy is immense and imminent unless USDA immediately reverses their decision. Trump and Rollins have made it clear that the millions of families who rely on our government for food assistance are not a priority. Kids who will be more focused on their grumbling bellies than what they're learning in school aren't a priority. Seniors, individuals with disabilities, and veterans, not a priority. Ending this government shutdown isn't a priority. Trump has made clear he's more focused on...
Okay, so we hear it's Trump's fault. Trump all day. Jojo says again, Republicans control the government. Kathleen, pay attention to this, guys. Kathleen says, sad my son said illegals have huge cartloads of food. They pull out a card for $1,000. Citizens who worked hard get little or no help. Okay. LJ from Brooklyn says 5 people on a SNAP case is $1,500 a month. Okay. All right. Kathleen says it's the truth. We see it every day here in Minnesota. Okay. So must be some truth to it. Huh?
Tearing down a historic building to build himself a gold-laden ballroom for lavish parties, then ensuring American families can put dinner on the table. And the fact that Thanksgiving is mere weeks away is just salt in the wound. Just imagine the extravagance of Trump's Thanksgiving table while millions across the country don't know how they'll even buy a turkey. Trump and Rollins may be pointing at the shutdown as the cause of this disastrous suspension, but the USDA has historically continued the safety net program through shutdowns. We've been here before. This money has been spent before. It can and it must legally be spent now. As recently as 2021, the USDA and the Office of Management and Budget made clear that Congress intends for SNAP benefits to continue despite lapses in appropriations, and the USDA should use contingency reserves in that case. During the 2019 government shutdown, USDA acknowledged that contingency funds could be used to continue SNAP benefits. There's neither any legal basis or precedent for USDA's decision to suspend SNAP and desert more than 41 million Americans. It's untenable to think that the administration would stoop as low as letting people go hungry to try to win some political upper hand so they can bludgeon Democrats with it. It's time for the president and his administration to actually serve the people of this country and abide by the laws they swore to uphold. It's deeply disconcerting that 40 weeks into this presidency, California has already had to file 45 lawsuits against Trump and his administration, more than one a week. But that's the reality we're in. And you've got my word that my fellow Democratic attorneys general and I won't back down, whatever comes. We'll continue to stand up for our states, the people who live in them. We'll continue to take the federal administration to court when they break the law, violate our Constitution, and harm our people. If they break the law, we sue. If they don't break.
All right. So I guess that wraps it up for now, folks. We will be back at 8 p.m. sharp with our weekly legal review. So I look forward to having you guys back. We're going to have a 2-hour show. We're going to talk about the Epstein files, Donald Trump. We're going to talk about a whole lot that you want to hear about. We're going to talk a little bit about Diddy. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen the picture floating around. There's so much to share and so much to analyze, and we're going to do so with a criminal defense attorney. He's been an attorney for 25 years. If you have any questions, feel free to come up on the show. I would be more than happy to have you come on. Just be presentable and also respectful. There's so many questions I know that I have to ask him, but do not hold back on participating. I will be asking questions that you put into the comments, so definitely keep up the good work in that regard. But now's your time. You know, it's very expensive to have an attorney or to do any legal work, so now you have your shot to ask questions, valuable questions. You can ask questions about personal matters or DWIs or whatever you want to ask. The next 2 hours from 8 to 10 will be your time to do so. Every day at noon, we go live to talk about the what's hot, what's happening, hot topics. We also call it the news at noon. And we also have a new show coming up where weekly we're going to be talking about the Luigi files with Candace, right? Candace Kelly was on Saturday night. If you did not see that show, I would advise you to go back and look at it. It was a powerful show. She is a legal expert. She's a professor at the university. She teaches law, and she helps us to understand the Luigi file or the Luigi Mangione case. He's the young man who took the life of the CEO of United Healthcare. So his trial will be coming up in January, so we're preparing for that. We want to bring you the best information possible so that you can come to a reasonable conclusion about what happened, because we do know that sometimes with the legacy media, things are not always true. I thank all the moderators who participated. I really do appreciate you guys tremendously, making sure that everybody can navigate and also be peaceable with all individuals as much as possible. We do have good debates here, but good debate is wonderful. But as long as we can refrain from going to the extent of what they did to Charlie Kirk when they took the man's life for his views. And so we ask that you try to remain calm when other people do not agree with you. Thank you so much. I'll be back in about 50 minutes with our legal show to talk about all the big stories and how they pair up with the legal news or legal understanding of different cases. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I will see you back here shortly on Watching the World, where news meet justice. And I thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.